Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harridge. Thank you so much for swinging back by. Today, and actually for the next 8 weeks, I've got something special. I've been really working on getting this put together. You'll notice if you're watching the video, I'm in a completely different place than normal. I'm in Austin, Texas, because tomorrow would be August 17th, the Boardroom Mastermind starts here in Austin, and I jumped at the opportunity to have my good friend and the founder of the Boardroom, Kent Clothier, join me on this week's episode.
What's happening, bro?
So I don't even know if I've told you this. So I'm doing 8 of these today. You're bringing, they're almost all your billionaire boardroom members.
Love it.
Greg Hurleen, Justin Colby, Steve Richards, Robert Vasquez, Matt Procaro, like all these studs that I've gotten to meet through you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, they're all going to be in Austin. Let's do this.
Very smart. Very smart.
So for the next 8 weeks is going to be like the boardroom infomercial. But in case someone out there lives under a rock and has never heard of you, could you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been, I've been in the game for a little over 20 years. Started in real estate back in 2002, wholesaling properties down in South Florida. Quickly that evolved where my family and I started doing what's called turnkey flipping in Memphis, Tennessee. Fast forward a few years here, a couple decades, and now, REI Nation, my family's company that they own and operate, operates now out of 11 cities, does about somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 to 1,000 turnkey flips a year, manages about 7,600 single-family homes across all the different markets. One of our companies wholesales another 450 properties a year. We've got one of our companies, we've got several, better part of $50 million that we've been able to raise over the years and go out and invest in multifamily and industrial, hospitality, RV parks, self-storage. And then along the way, built an education and coaching company called Real Estate Worldwide that has educated tens of thousands of people, and what sits right on top of all that is the Boardroom Mastermind, which you just alluded to.
So I love that you hit all the aspects that you're still an active investor. You're still in the game.
Absolutely.
You're still someone that talks the game. Like, you still play the game. And I think that's just an important thing for the audience to hear. So the first segment every week I do is called the bottom line up front. As you know, and you talk about all the time, we live in this attention deficit society.
No doubt.
Someone's going to be listening to this. They're going to like, I can't wait. They're going to stop and get gas, or their phone's going to ring, and they're going to forget to turn it back on. So what I want you to do is take up to 2 minutes and just tell the audience the most important things they need to be focused on right now. This episode airs next week. Things they should be doing, things they should be avoiding, things they need to be focused on, just kind of the cliff notes we'll talk about for the next half hour. You ready?
Let's do it.
Go.
All right. So look, the reality is, guys, is that, I'm probably going to approach this a little bit different angle than some of my guys. I will tell you the most important thing you should be focused on right now is trying to scale your business, figure out what your niche is. Absolutely go for it as deep as you possibly can. Don't go wide, go deep. Go right after the areas that actually matter and try to put the people, processes, leverage, things in place over the course of the next 12 months to remove yourself, like I say, fire yourself as often as you can. Get out of the mundane things and get into the things that ultimately are going to allow you over the course of the next few years to actually prosper and build significant wealth, because that opportunity actually still exists right now in this market. But as long as you are the hustler, as long as you are wildly transactional, and as long as you're the guy or the girl that's driving the revenue each and every day, you don't get the opportunity to escape it. Right? I talk about it all the time. Scale the business so you can escape the grind. People live in fear of this, and they don't take massive action in the moment, and then they end up living the next 2 decades on this hamster wheel without being able to get out from underneath it. So as the market is today, how do you avoid some of the pitfalls? I'll tell you the pitfalls today are, with all the financing elements that are still somewhat in flux, if you are not an experienced real estate investor and do not know what you are doing, then going out and putting yourself into risky things is very, very silly at this point, right? So a lot of people get seduced by the A&E 26-minute fix and flip shows and believe that's their way to financial freedom right now. And I can tell you, in this particular market, if you are not experienced, that is probably something that I would be trying to avoid. On the flip side, if you are experienced, then clearly it's a math equation, right? If the financing makes sense now, it will only make more sense later as the rates and mortgage rates start to recover, start to move in a different direction. You can always refinance and recapitalize and keep deploying. I would really be focused right now on trying to either wholesale properties, actually grow and create income, and then taking that income and investing it into rental properties that, under the current financing terms, absolutely you can. If you can make it work now, it will only work better in the future. The mortgage is the greatest one-way bet ever. As Warren Buffett talks about, like literally, if it works today, the opportunity for you to refinance it down the line is unbelievable when you look at what you're actually doing there, right? You're putting very little capital in an investment and have the opportunity to recapitalize it down the line. So creating active income quickly, money loves speed, creating that money now, and then ultimately using it to go and acquire assets that cash flow, that's the game today. Again, the fix and flip game, the one caveat, the fix and flip game for the brand new investor, to me personally, is very, very risky. There's just too much influx in the markets, right? Too much volatility in the market. The very experienced real estate investors, right? That advice is not for them. But the people that absolutely don't know what the hell they're doing, avoid that and go into asset classes that cash flow right now.
So about 8 months ago, you did a coaching call for all my sales team at RCN. And since then, Jeff, the CEO, signs almost every email to the sales team off with "the time is now." Because, what a great message.
Yeah.
You don't wear a watch. You've got a great story about the time is now. And I just want to just dive right into that because my marketing team said something about 4 weeks ago. They said, "Tim, we need a new segment." And it seems like every guest has this turning point, this oh my gosh moment. So I want to dive right in. What was your turning point from that you kind of point to? I know some of the stories, but what's that turning point that puts you to where you are now?
Honestly, it's kind of this waterfall effect, right? There was actually 3 of them, and I won't get into all the detail, but I built a very successful business at a young age, right? And then from 17 to 30 was a part of a group that built a business up to $1.8 billion a year in annual sales, right? 7th largest privately held company in the state of Florida. And so my 20s were very different than most. Ironically, all my friends went off to college, and then I didn't go to college. I barely graduated high school. When they all got back from college, they all came to work for me, right? And so it was a very different situation, and I was not humble in any way, shape, or form because I had never experienced any kind of failure. I did nothing but up and to the right. And so at the age of 30, I got into a run-in with my partners and ultimately got ran out of my own business. And that was extremely humbling for me, right? Lost everything over the course of 2 years, just way too cocky, kind of chased it on the way down like a bad gambler. Before I knew it, I went from having millions of dollars in the bank to having virtually nothing, okay? But that, you would think that would have been enough, but it wasn't.
It rarely is for people,
especially guys like me, right? But I needed a couple more bites at the apple. And so fast forward a few years later, about 10 years later, one of my mentors, my uncle, who I had so much admiration for, he was an amazing man, and I wanted to be just like him. He was an executive inside of the travel industry, did very, very well for himself, millions and millions of dollars, very respected, et cetera. And when he retired, unfortunately, he retired at 60, and unfortunately, right after he retired, he was diagnosed with a form of cancer. Ironically, it was completely recoverable. He had like a 96% survival rate. But in my own opinion, when he heard it, he kind of started dying at that moment, right? It's just a scary word. And he ended up passing away. And when he passed away, I was, in the room with him at the hospital. And I'll never forget, I knew he had all this money and he'd spent all this time traveling the world trying to build this business, everything at the expense of his family, always telling himself and seducing himself with well, I'm doing it for them. When I get to the end, we're going to enjoy all the fruits of my labor. And he had he had this dry erase whiteboard. And I'll never forget, right before he passed away, he said, hey, celebrate my life. And by the way, he couldn't talk because at the time that he died, he's in the hospital hooked up to a respirator. Maybe not, but he was hooked up to all the stuff where he couldn't talk. It was all down his throat and everything. And then he said, I only wish I had more time. And then he passed away. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, right? It was bad enough that he was passing, but all of that money in the world, everything he had ever worked for, all the things he had put off, that money couldn't get him the only thing he wanted, which was one more minute. I mean, he would have, I know he had, tens of millions in the bank, and he literally would have given every bit of it, I have no doubt, for one more minute, and he couldn't buy it. And it was a big shock to me, right? Had a profound effect on me. But then fast forward about 6 months after that, and I was flying back from speaking at an event, and my wife and young daughter we were separated on a plane because we had booked our itineraries at 2 different times. I'm sure you've done the same thing, right? And, we were connecting from, flying from Memphis to West Palm Beach. We were connecting in Atlanta. We were somewhere over North Florida after leaving Atlanta, and smoke begins to fill the entire plane. And, which is nothing you ever want a part of, right? And what makes it worse is all the buzzers start going off, the alarms are firing, and then the flight attendant comes on there and really starts freaking out. You can hear the panic. So it was very obvious that she was, this was a serious situation, right? And then we go into a nosedive. And, I didn't know this then, I know it now, but if they think a plane is on fire, they start trying to get down below 13,000 feet as fast as they can, right? And so going from 30 to 13 as fast as you can is not fun as a passenger. And everybody's screaming. I mean, it's pure pandemonium. And unfortunately, in that moment, the only screams that I get to hear are my little girl screaming for daddy. And, over my right-hand shoulder, I'm in 19A, and my wife is 26E and F with my daughter. And I can hear her scream for me. I can just see the top of her little head there. And I can't get to her, right? I can't do anything to console her. All, in fact, I can see is my wife's eyes, and she's panicked, I'm panicked. And, this is a very, very, very chaotic situation. And it was gut-wrenching, heartbreaking. And then the captain quickly came on and let us know that we were indeed on fire, and we were going to be diverted, and we were going to make an emergency landing in Tampa, and that we needed to listen to the crew and follow their instructions when he gives us the command, and he's going to say it 3 times in a row: brace for impact, brace for impact, brace for impact. And I will never forget it, right? And most gut-wrenching moment of my life, saying goodbye to my wife across all these people's heads. Masks have been dropped. I'm recording a video to my young son so that he knows when I die that I'm thinking of him. I mean, it was the worst moment of my life, right? And but clearly we're sitting here now. So we got on the ground and we got off the plane and everything worked out. And I did not get back on a plane. I drove the rest of the way. But, those things kind of stacked on top of each other, right? It's like, man, you could lose it all. So you might as well build what you want to build the way you want to build it, because it could all be gone in a minute, right? That was the first losing the business. And then it was stop putting off, stop telling yourself you're going to get to it. Just get to it. It was kind of the message from my uncle. And then, you don't want to be on a plane at 30,000 feet with anything left unsaid, with any moment left untouched, and so that's where the time is now came from. I mean, from that moment forward, I had ultimate clarity that this is the moment right now. This is it. Tomorrow's not promised, next week, next month. If there's something, this is the most important moment in my life right now. And I'm going to live every day just like that.
I love that story. And it came up on mine and your first phone call ever, a year and a half ago. But we're going to take a quick break because then there's some other things in that phone call that I want the audience to hear. So stick around. We'll be right back. Here at RCN Capital, we understand that everyone's financial needs are different. Whether you're pursuing long-term or short-term ventures, our wide range of loan programs will help reach your financial goals with ease and flexibility. We have loan programs for fix and flips, long-term rentals, new construction, and multifamily properties. And don't forget to ask about our Platinum program for experienced investors. To learn more about our loan programs or apply, click the link in our bio or email info@rcncapital.com. Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. Thank you for sticking around. Kent, I want to dive right into that initial onboarding phone call because the Boardroom Mastermind, it's not one of those things I can just go online and give you a credit card and join.
Right.
I had to talk to Eddie, or I think Sean first. I don't remember. I had to fill out a form and then talk to someone and then talk to someone. And then finally there's going to be a call with Kent. And I was pretty sure it wasn't even you. I was like, okay, here we go. This is another one of those things. Just take my money. I want to join, right? And I think our call was scheduled for 10 or 15 minutes, and we went for like half an hour or longer than that. Another thing you talked about, it was 148. What's the number? If you have so many hours to live, it was
168 hours every 7 days.
That's because I'm kind of dovetailing on the previous conversation because you talked about that, and it just aligns so much with what I believe in, having gone through my entrepreneurial journey.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about why you include that on maybe an onboarding call, as you're weeding out the applicants to the boardroom that you don't want in your circle.
Well, I mean, look, dude, to your point, this is not, well, going back, right? If you take into context that how important time is to me, right? So I get a choice, just like you do, with every minute of every day. And my choices are spend it with my kids, my family, whatever, or I'm going to spend it with the people that I love and care about and helping them accomplish what they want. Or, it's what I will never do with my time ever is waste it with one person that doesn't deserve it ever. And so we live in a place where our core values are, and our entire process is, if you're not a good fit, I'm trying to run you away as fast as possible. Like what you see is what you get. And if I'm a rub, I want to know it right out of the gate, right? And so I'm going to hit, we hit people hard coming in. And the reason we do that is it's not a test or anything. It's we know exactly what we stand for, exactly what we stand against, exactly what we believe in, exactly the way our messages are going to be delivered, and exactly how much, time is important to us. And we want to be around people that, are in alignment with that and that are trying to accomplish amazing things. And, guys like us, we've been around a long time, but, if you think about everybody in the boardroom, there's one common thread. And the common thread is everybody, if you ask them, they would have a very centralized belief. And that is, I didn't come this far to come this far. It's that simple, right? And I don't care whether you're worth 100 million or you're worth 2 million. Everybody in there has that same belief. And so it's important to me that I make sure that that's where we are. And I want to know immediately, because before I get on the phone with somebody or before we go down a path, like you said, your money is a part of the equation. It is by no means the equation. Right. Because there are plenty of douchebags that can write a check, right? And
plenty.
Yeah. And so that's just not what we're about. I mean, again, everybody's got big skin in the game, but this is about time. Like, if we're going to spend time together and break bread, like, this is family. Like, we're going to do amazing things together. And I don't want to spend any time with anybody that's not completely bought in on that. And those last, the way I view the world is, and I would encourage anybody to do this, is if you got the worst news or best news of your life being you have 168 hours left. You have 7 days left on this planet, right? And clearly we understand why it'd be the worst news, but the good news side of it would be like, well, at least right? Because most don't. Like, most people just drop, right? If I knew I had 168 hours left, what would I do? And whatever you would do, right, what I would tell you is design your life, design your business, design your situation to where that's what every 168 hours looks like. Because you don't know. It could be it. And it might be a little morbid, but that's just the way I look at the world. And that's exactly the way I look at, like, this is like, if this was my last 168, we're going over here to the boardroom and hanging out, like, is this how I want to spend my 160? Absolutely. Let's do this. And that's when you get into that headspace and get going, you'll start to design and make decisions and design the life and make decisions in a little bit different way.
You know, the header of my personal website says the business is the vehicle, not the dream.
Amen.
Right? And so many times, specifically the alphas that all small businesses attract, like we were going to conquer, we're going to win, we're going to beat, and it gets to where, but it's for my family.
Well,
I don't have time for them right
That's
now.
the seduction.
Yeah.
We are the greatest guys like us. We are the greatest salespeople on the planet, and the person that we can always sell is ourselves, right? Like we can convince ourselves that everything we're doing is for this reason, and we'll figure out how to weave the story to where, oh yeah, this is why it's for my kids. Look, I got news for you. When you're on your deathbed or I'm on my deathbed, the one thing they will never say is, "Man, I just wish Dad made more money." Or I just wish he'd flipped one more house.
Right.
But they will almost certainly say, I wish we'd had more time. So you tell me what's most important, right? So build a business, create a situation to where you're buying your time back. And as long as you're highly transactional and you're highly, in that hustler mode, that is not that. And so people ask me, why are you so passionate about scaling a business and, taking people from hustler to CEO? It's because it's about time. It's not because to go build an enormous business, but you can have a 2 or 3 person business, or you could just have a completely automated business. I don't care. The point of it is if you are actively involved in transactional business, that is not a business. That is a job.
Right.
And create the automation, create the tools, create the leverage, create the people, do what you need to do, the processes, so that you get to do things. You don't have to do things.
Is it fair to say, because you do in the bottom line up front, you mentioned scale. You're talking about time. You just brought up scale again. Is it fair to say that that's going to be your legacy in the industry, that you're going to help people buy that time back, and when they are maybe on their deathbed?
I hope. My hope is that,
because you're very passionate about it.
Yeah, I hope that literally, look, I'm really good friends with Ed Milet. He made a point to me one day. We were sitting there talking, and he said, I want you to consider the legacy that you're actually leaving. Okay? I don't even know what the
Key word.
Yeah. He's like, well, think about it like this. He's like, today you impact millions of people, right? He's like, today there's no doubt that whether it's through social, through video, through everything you've been able to do, there's a lot of people that have heard what you're doing, your message, and you've impacted them. Yeah, it's fair. He's like, well, if you think about why that happened and just keep going all the way back, the businesses, the ups, the downs, all the way back. He's like, he traced it all the way back. He's like, you were raised by an entrepreneur. You had a front row seat to your father when he went out and started those grocery stores, bought them. And it's like, so from the age of 12, you were on your path to being completely unemployable. That's fair, right? Because I watched my father do this. I got the fire, and, I could never work for anybody. He's like, now let me ask you something. Imagine if your father didn't make that decision to walk out of that corporate office and go start those stores. Think of the millions of people that would have never been impacted. He's like, it all goes back to one decision.
Right.
He made the decision. That one decision he made, fast forward, 40 years later, and think of the millions of people through the ripple effect. I really, that's a profound way to think about it, right? And so for me, look, when I die, yeah, it's going to happen. Nobody gets out alive. And when that happens, is somebody thinks enough of the impact I've been able to create on them, their families, maybe their extended families, maybe their organization, to get on an airplane, fly to San Diego, attend my funeral, and make a point of walking up to my 2 little girls and my son and saying, your dad mattered, I'm good.
So you talked about San Diego. You grew up in Dallas when you were really young.
Yep.
When we were here in Austin, you were talking about how you knew that some of these buildings used not to be able to be higher than the Capitol.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your dad taught you that when y'all were driving around setting up these grocery stores when you were 12, right?
I was born and raised in Dallas, and I tell people all the time, like, the whole don't mess with Texas, as you know, is very real. Like, it is, you are indoctrinated down here, right? I'm still proud to say that I'm from Texas, and I've lived in Texas, for 30 years. But I can remember being in in middle school, and we took Texas history before we took U.S. history and world history.
Still that way, just so you know.
2 years. And I can remember being so proud to be from Texas. And so, yeah, that's what that's from. It's like, it's truly indoctrination. Like, you are like, this place matters. It's special. And I loved it. You know, people go to Six Flags amusement park all over the country, and they have no idea where that actually comes from.
Right.
Right? If you're from Texas, you know exactly where that comes from. The Six Flags that flew over Texas.
And you know it was founded here, too.
It's exactly, like, you know the flags that flew over the state of Texas, right? And so it's you know, I loved I moved out of Texas when I was 16, moved to Tennessee for 10 years. Then I was in South Florida for 15 years, and then I've been in San Diego for the last 12.
So you're one of those guys, you've been in it right at the same amount of time as me. I've always had I'd say a respect from afar of you. I never really got to know you till about a year and a half ago. Your brother, Chris, and I have been friends for a decade now. You talked about REI Nation. A lot of the old timers know it as Memphis Invest.
Yep.
Right. I mean, one of the kind of the bellwether of began the turnkey home selling.
100%. Absolutely started it.
I want to talk about the boardroom a little bit, though, because I'm on my 8th event now, I think. And I remember the first one, I sent you a text around lunchtime, and I said, thank you for doing everything on time. So many events I go to are just thrown together, right? And there's no schedule. There's no agenda. And you run around like a sergeant, frankly. And I mean, you're the general, but boy, you don't have a problem becoming the sergeant immediately and whipping people into shape. So I want to compliment you on the way you run your events, because like when there's an agenda, I know like 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't mean 10:01.
Right.
Why is that important to you? Just for the same reason of respecting people's time, or like
That's part of it.
you seem committed to it?
Well, I will tell you what it is, dude, is I view the boardroom, and I view most of my businesses this way, but certainly in the boardroom, I view it as a luxury brand. And what I mean by that is that, you know, there is no compromise for perfection. There is no compromise for excellence. There is no like how you do anything is how you do everything. And if I view my, you know, think about like whether you're at a Ritz-Carlton or a Four Seasons or whatever, if you think about the practical value of what we actually do when we go to those places, it's a hotel room, brother.
Right.
Right? You and I both know, and we're not afraid of. We've done it. We can go get a Motel 6. We can go get a Hampton Inn. We're not afraid of that.
You're going to spend 8 to 24 hours in that room.
Yeah. So why is it that we spend 10 times that for Ritz-Carlton? Well, clearly there's benefit, but the most important thing is the intrinsic value. It is to be associated with that brand matters. To get treated a certain way when you walk in the door matters. To know that when you are told, I will be right there to your room to get your bags, somebody is going to be at your room, the bellman will be there in 3 minutes.
Right.
Right? And that when I pull up, they will remember my name, or that whatever it is, it's done. Like, and you just know that, right? And it's really hard to put a price on that, but you know the way it makes you feel. And so to me, that's kind of the way I look at this. Is like, there's a lot of people that maybe don't identify like you are with what somebody when they're striving for perfection. They don't know it necessarily because they're not, you know, this is kind of their first entrance into but they sure as hell know when they don't get it. Right? Right? They may not be able to put something to it. They may say like, man, this is awesome. And that just may be what they don't realize, that how awesome it really is. But I can tell you, the moment it's not right, they will recognize it. And so the ability to compromise, it's and again, clearly it happens behind the scenes. You know, it's a living, breathing thing in all these events and this entire organization. So we are for sure always trying to pivot and improvise in the moment. But we definitely have our standards, and we definitely have a playbook, and we definitely have a top-notch team, and we definitely take it very serious because I want the experience. I want it doesn't do us any good to put amazing people, because we curate everybody, as you know. Like, nobody just gets to write a check. Like, everybody's got to talk to me.
Actually, I was a little afraid I wasn't going to get in. Like, it created like this. I was like, man, I hope he says yes.
So that's not, I mean, look, this is being recorded. I'll straight up tell you, right? I mean, FTC monitors me because I'm a public guy. They monitor me very closely, and I got every stat I spout, I have to be able to prove, right? And so I can 100% tell you that our acceptance rate, we get roughly between 400 and 500 applications a quarter, and our acceptance rate is between 3 and 4%. And so when I tell you that, I mean, that's not manufactured. That's just real. And some people can't write the check. Some people just simply aren't qualified. Some people are just douchebags, and we just don't want them in there. But when I tell you that when you're in that group, you're part of a very special place that we take very seriously. And if we're going to take that part of it so serious, why would we not take the other part so serious? Create exceptional experiences and a well-run, well-coordinated, fast-moving, fast-paced, high-value opportunities for people, because that's what we're living to do.
When I love how you work experiences into it as well. So we're staying at the Hotel Van Zandt, brand new hotel in Austin. Last time we stayed at the Fairmont Princess in Scottsdale,
right,
which is just a beautiful resort. And so a guy like me that is busy like everyone else, it's nice to be able to look at your wife and say, why don't you come with me and just work from this luxurious hotel room?
Right.
Because she has to work. She's an entrepreneur as well. But, I mean, if you're just going to be on your laptop in the home office, might as well be at Fairmont Princess.
Just sitting by the pool or going to the spa for half the day, whatever, right?
I mean, and I love that. When we were in Scottsdale, she goes, these people worship him. Talking about you. I said, they don't. They're just friends. They're
right.
Like, I love that. I mean, so my last ass-kissing moment, actually, I can't say that. My last compliment before we get real again is you've created, I think, a culture that is just a lot of people that like to be around each other. I think that's cool.
It's a family. Yeah. And look, you kind of alluded to it earlier. There's first off, the term mastermind has become so convoluted and watered down, and like, and then, there's this would be really easy to do by proxy. It'd be really easy to check a box. It'd be really easy to go do this at the, a Marriott down the street. It'd be real easy to, be very loose with it. And you and I both know, been around a long time, there's a lot of that out there. And, you've heard me make the comment. I can count on my competition's mediocrity. Doesn't matter what business I'm in, I can count on it. And that's just the way we look at it. It's just that if I know that mediocre is going to exist, it's not really hard to be great. All you got to do is just kind of pay attention to the details, get the right people in the room, treat them like family, put them in the right places, run a very tight ship, and kind of, when you get all the right ingredients and you get them in the right sequence, you make a great cake. And it's real easy to get the right ingredients in the wrong sequence and make a cake you don't want.
Well, so that's interesting. It's a luxury brand, and one of your sayings is hashtag FABL. It means F, you can fill in the blanks, audience, average, B, legendary.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm tying all this together. It wasn't planned. It's a luxury brand. You want to be legendary. You refuse mediocrity. Time is so important to you. I guess that's the nucleus of why the boardroom is so successful. I think it's just a combination of all of that.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's be honest. Every business, every entrepreneurial business is a reflection of the founder and the owner and, the operator, right? And so your business, my business, it's the same thing. So the boardroom is a direct reflection of me, what I value, and, what I hold near and dear. And to your point, we've found, 250 plus and growing people that message resonates very well. And more importantly, they like being around each other, and they are very successful in their own endeavors. And, you put that all together and things get pretty fun pretty quick, right? Lots of opportunities, lots of people doing lots of deals and lots of back and forth. I mean, it's just a cool situation to put yourself into. And again, I go back to what we were talking about earlier. Don't think for a second any of that is by chance. Like, after that clarifying moment,
right,
I literally sat down like, what do I want my life to be like? What do I want to get paid to do? I have all these different things going on, and I had to cut away some businesses, and I'm very aware of it with new businesses I start, but the boardroom was a central component of, this is a big deal to me. Like, this is real impact. Like, it isn't just, guys like yourself, but clearly, if we spend enough time together as we have, what you start sharing with your own children, it starts living long after. And so to me, this is all the good stuff, man. But it's all on purpose.
So we're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back, do the money minute, and then don't let me forget to ask you.
Whatever you just forgot?
Don't let me forget that. Stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-vest.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. We're still with Kent Clothier. Kent, the Money Minute is one of my favorite parts of the show, and here's the way I set it up. Imagine there's an entrepreneur out there. They're going to hear the next 60 seconds of advice you give, and they will hear nothing else for the next 30 days. This is it. This is the only advice they get. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Invest in yourself. Real simple. It's like the best investment you can ever make in yourself, especially as a new entrepreneur, is to educate yourself. Go and actually invest money. The massive difference between information and insight, right? Information, we all know, it's all over the internet, YouTube, but good base, good foundation, not what I'm talking about. If you want to get to your outcome and own your outcome and get there as fast as possible, then invest in insight. Go and whether it's through coaching or whether through peer groups or whether through other, art meetups, but get around the real movers and shakers and whatever it is you're trying to do, and invest in yourself. Write the check, invest the time, because a mind that is expanded cannot contract. Once you have the information, now you have the tools to actually go and take that information and make money for the rest of your life. Don't go for the quick hit. You want my advice? Don't chase money. Don't go after the quick hit right now. Now's not that time. Go invest in yourself, get the education, and then put yourself in a situation where you get to live the rest of your life the way you want to live it.
So you talk about living your life the way you want to live it. I texted you 6 months ago, said, hey, will there be a Scale and Escape this year? And you wrote back, you said, hopefully not. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's so weird because, you had standing room only, 600 something people that paid a lot of money.
Yep.
You had thousands of people on the Zoom watching live.
Yep.
And a lot of promoters say that and don't mean it. But after I spoke, I went back there with Lawrence and there were 900 people on the Zoom.
Yep.
And a lot of people could not let go of that type of notoriety, that type of celebrity, that type of attention.
Right.
But you said, hopefully not.
Right.
Because I feel like you intentionally did that to grow the boardroom and it worked.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, I don't need to do that anymore. Well, could you talk about that?
Yeah. Look, I've been doing large events like that for the better part of the last decade, off and on. And there's a massive difference. I talked about it earlier. There's a massive difference between having to do something and getting to do something, right? And I just don't like putting myself in situations where I have to do something. And, I found myself where I did a Scale and Escape on the West Coast at the beginning of that year. And the day before the event, an ice storm basically takes out from Dallas, Texas, all the way up, right? And so half of our attendees, basically, all their flights got canceled. And so then I committed that, I'll bring it to the East Coast just to take care of you guys. And so I did it. But those events are, very expensive. to your point, it's great for brand awareness. It's great for notoriety. It's great for credibility. It's great for getting some people involved in boardroom for sure. But the next time I do that event, it will not be because I have to do anything. It will be because I want to. Like, hey, Tim, come on stage. Let's go. Let's go do some things and have some fun and make some money together and all hang out and party and all that. I don't want to. I just don't like. I'm allergic to it. Right? Like when my headspace goes into a situation to where I'm obligated to do something versus I can't wait, it freaks me out. And that's kind of the reason I answered. I was like, dude, I hope I don't have to do anything. Like, now, if I look up a year from now and I get to do a scale and escape because it just makes sense and let's have some fun and let's go, invite some of our famous friends that we don't get to see very often, totally in. But I don't want to, feel like that somebody's got a gun to my head like I got to do something.
It was such a great event. And you talked about Ed Milet earlier, and I got to hang out with Ed in the green room, and it was just so cool because he's just a cool dude.
Just a normal guy.
And everyone you brought in, like, they were just cool dudes. Just normal. I mean, you see him on the stage and Ed makes you cry, but like, they're just normal people. Ed was so interested. I told him I'd listen to his audiobook of the
blood thing.
One.
Yeah.
And 2 days before, because I knew I'd meet him, and I wanted to, like, so I didn't want to be a BS or like, oh, great book, I read it. And he was so concerned. He goes, oh man, how was it? I go, great. Like, why? He goes, oh, we had recorded over 3 days and I was hoarse at the end, and I was just worried it didn't sound good. And I was like, oh, well, I listened at 1.5 times speed anyway. So he goes, sound like a chipmunk. And it's like, you look back and you're like, I'm hanging out with these really popular celebrity people, but they're just normal people.
It's funny you say it, because part of being around as long as I have and, putting on those big events, and I've come to a place to where these are all my friends, right? And to your point, it's every one of them they're just like us, right? They're very humble. They've gotten banged around. They got just as many scars as we do. It hasn't always been cupcakes and rainbows and sunshine, and they might be amazing at sharing their message from stage, which is very, which brings us in, but they're just normal people. Whether it's Bobby Castro, whether it's Ed Milet, whether it's, Dan Fleischman or Jesse Itzler or Boardroom Mastermind or you name it, they're just good people.
I'll be honest, the only one who didn't seem normal was A-Rod.
Yeah.
That dude's just clean and proud.
He's another level. A-Rod's another level.
He walks into the green room and just kind of stands there, and it's like, the president's here.
Yeah. He clearly has I got nothing bad to say, but it was very obvious. I mean, he's been in a spotlight that very few will ever be able to understand, right? I mean, I couldn't even imagine.
Cool message. He was nice, but
yeah, he was very nice.
Like, that dude, he could not let his guard down. He had to just stand there, like.
I couldn't imagine the spotlight. I mean, clearly, when you're the number one earning baseball player ever, right? And you have dated the likes of J-Lo and many others, and it's the New York Yankees he has been in I get why his guard's pretty up, right? I mean, he's been in the middle of it.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to run out of time soon. The boardroommastermind.com is how people would find out about that.
Yeah.
Do you still do training or product sales through REWW or?
Yeah. So basically everybody, they come through the boardroom. If they're not a good fit, then my team will start trying to guide them down a pathway. Hey, we can put you with a private coach that can get you to the next level. Or we've got some of our training courses that can get you to the next level. I mean, it's not like, when I say we have a 3 to 4% acceptance rate, if there's somebody that we can still help, we will try to help them to put them on a path to coming into.
Because you have the entourage.
Yeah, well, Boardroom Entourage is a private group that meets every week that is all for brand new investors, and I actually get on that call to try again, the ultimate outcome for everybody should be to get in the boardroom, because when you get that invitation, as our friend Eddie Speed said to me a long time ago, if you don't have a seat at the table, your butt's on the menu, right? And that's very true in this industry.
That's right.
Right? And that you can count on that if you're not sitting at the table and you're not in rooms like that, at some level, your demise is being planned. And it may not be you personally, but There's somebody trying to take advantage of the market, go get a deal or go whatever they're trying to do, and you just don't have access to that information. And so the idea is you definitely want to get in that room, and we want to try to give you all the tools and everything to get you there. But the only way we begin that conversation is at the boardroommastermind.com.
Gotcha. Anything else you want to say before I wrap up?
Time is now, baby. Let's go.
Time is now. And it is time to wrap up. So remember, this episode is part 1 of 8. It will be 8 boardroom members over the next 8 weeks. I'm looking forward to it. You'll find a common thread of giving, a common thread of success, a common thread of just real people. So if you're interested, if you need help, if you need guidance, or if you just want to be a part of the community, check out the boardroommastermind.com and just follow along the journey. Comment below. Let these guys know what they think.
Let me say one.
Yeah.
If you do that, if people go to the Boardroom Mastermind, make sure that they let us know in the referral that they heard about it on this show.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
It is.
Right?
Big deal.
Because I want to make sure that I know you're trying to grow your reach, but if somebody comes there, I want them to know that hey, I heard about you. I heard it from your members on Tim's show. It's a big deal.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, let them know I sent you.
Amen.
But that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've grown both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Uncontested Investing Show. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time. The preceding program is furnished by RCN Capital, LLC. The information provided is for general education purposes only and does not constitute any legal, financial, investment, or other professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by any speaker are the speaker's own opinion and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of RCN Capital, LLC. No information contained in this episode should be construed as financial, investment, or legal advice from RCN or any individual, author, host, or guest. You should always consult a financial advisor before investing.